Coach's Corner with Coach Heck and the infamous Coach Patrick King. You're stuck with me, man.
I'm stuck.
You are stuck with me. I ain't going anywhere.
There's a lot of people that are jealous of me for sitting here, and there's some people that there's a little sympathy going on at the same time.
There's more people that are sympathetic to you. I'm just saying that much right now. What did one casket say to the other, Kenny?
Oh, I know this. Is that you coughing?
You got it, man. Is that you coughing?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Just remember what Ron Hecklinski said today. Man, you ain't that good. The scouting report said you were pretty good. You ain't that good. Oh, man. Are you kidding me?
Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. It's Monday, December 2nd. We've got another great show in store for you tonight, live from Dorbin's Old Town Tap in South Bend. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel and comment in the chat. Helps us get to the top of YouTube, although we're not going to ever make it to the top probably, but we can try. Anyway, before we get started, thanks to Tony Letcher with Health Markets Insurance. If you need help with your health insurance or Medicare, call our guy Tony at 574-307-8882 or visit tletcher.com. Also, thank you to Hahn Funeral Homes in Mishawaka, who provide the best in funeral services for families dealing with the loss of a loved one. Visit hahnfuneralhomes.com or call them at 574-255-1474. And finally, thank you to the Black Sedan Band, which, unlike last week, this is the music you are listening to right now. They do travel, so if you're looking for a great cover band, visit their website, blacksedanband.com, to book, or check them out on YouTube. Thanks for joining us as always. Now here's Pat King and, oh, did I mention, Hall of Famer Ron Hecklinski.
Oh, man. We're live here tonight at the Old Town Tap, Steve Dorbin's Old Town Tap. And I'm excited as heck to be talking sports tonight. We have a little chill in the air. We're supposed to get a few inches of snow, which is typical South Bend at this time, right? Lake effect stuff.
Yeah, we have a snow warning, not a watch. It's a warning. So
yeah, it's just a warning.
But we were in northern Indiana. It's supposed to snow up here, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. At around 7:00, we're going to have the great Dave McCullough, longtime high school basketball coach in the state of Indiana. And we'll get to his bio a little bit when we have him on. And we're going to have the great Jimmy Shannon, longtime high school basketball coach and former Anderson Indian.
Yes.
He's going to be in about 7 too. And hopefully, if those two guys can figure out how to get on a Zoom, we'll have them on a Zoom. But who knows, right? I mean, who knows if they can figure out how to get on a Zoom? We have the great Rich Coddens and his wife Carolyn in shop tonight. So if we got any questions, that if there's a tie on anything, we'll get Rich in here to break the tie.
That's how it usually works. You get your barbershop people involved.
Yeah, no, if there's a tie,
the barber usually has final say.
Exactly. So if there's a tie, we'll get Rich in here. But there's just a lot of things to talk about from a sporting standpoint. We have the great Johnny B. Good here. What's happening, John? You good, man?
I'm good. Glad to be with you guys. Love talking sports with you too.
All right. Well, the great Pat King, he puts up with me. He just turned 69.
I'm your driver for the last month. I'm the limo driver.
His birthday was on November 30th.
Yeah, it's great getting older.
Happy birthday! Yeah.
I just gotta ask you. I gotta ask you this. When you turn 69, is there anything exciting about that, or
if they would, I had my birthday cake was a cinnamon roll with a candle on it at breakfast time. It was leftover.
You didn't get your German chocolate?
Oh, no. There was no one even thought of it. I mean, and literally I had to find, there was one cinnamon roll left. I said, can I have this? And everybody just kind of looked at me. I said, yeah, sure. So I microwaved it and I found a candle and put a candle in it.
Well,
and went in there and did it all myself. And they go, oh yeah, happy birthday.
You're missing my point. I don't care what kind of cake you had. I don't even care if you had a candle. I want to know.
Cake's a big deal.
I want to know what is going on your 69th birthday, man.
Nothing.
Come on.
Nothing.
All right. Well, we'll talk about
peace and quiet. It's a number. That's all I know. Now,
Too
when
cold
we
to play golf.
Yeah, it's too cold to play golf. A year from now, when you hit 70, then we may have to have
Well, no.
psychology. That might be a psychiatrist.
Again, I think you're missing my point here.
I know what your point is.
When we were all kids, and we had this imagination of, man, when I get to be 69, I'm doing this, man.
I totally understand.
You got nothing to report?
No reports.
Oh, okay, man.
No reports.
All right. So listen, man, let's start this great show off here with some high school football stuff, man. You know, we had state championships in the air down in Indianapolis. This might be about the first time in a few years that the broadcast sport wasn't down there broadcasting games, John.
Yeah, that's it's 5-year streak that we had broken.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we had our 5-year streak broken this year.
That's right.
Coach Bennett, we've been down there like last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
Doing at least one game. So
when we can only do radio or audio for the state finals, so we would try to talk people and they'd watch it on TV, listen to us, and then they'd adjust the delay so they could time things up with our audio. But the northern teams took their lumps this year again.
1-4
again, which we kind of anticipated.
Well, yeah, but aren't there 6 championships? How you go 1-4?
How about 1-5? I didn't say math was my strong suit. Yeah, come on now.
Just
I
asking.
graduated from South Bend Schools. My math isn't my strong suit.
All right.
That's funny.
All right, so go through the 6A. Go through what we got, man.
Well, on Friday, day after Thanksgiving, you had they had all the even numbers, 2, 4, and 6 on Friday. Adams Central, they're the ones that moved up from 1A, right? They moved up from 1A. Now they're 2A, and they still won the state championship. They beat Linton Stockton 46-6. And 4A, East Noble went down there. And we saw East Noble the week before have a good close game with Mishawaka, and went down to Indianapolis, and New Palestine put it to them. It was 56-26. And I don't think it was that close.
Wow.
Hey, my wife did say that the last time East Noble played in the state finals, I think 5 or 6 years ago, they only managed to score like 6. So
yeah,
this was a win in their book, I think.
Well, so you started to get the inkling that the stories about Indianapolis football is still one step on the ladder better than anybody else, and this was the first sign of it. The 6A was a neighborhood. It was Brownsburg and Westfield in a rematch, and that probably was the best game of the weekend. It was 22-17. Brownsburg won. Both teams had been number one somewhere during the season, and Lawrence North, I think, was number one at the end of the season. So these two teams had a nice game. Brownsburg 22, Westfield 17.
So how about Lawrence North? And obviously being the basketball powerhouse that they are, now all of a sudden Lawrence North has their football program rolling a little bit. And I just talked to the great Jimmy Etherington a couple days ago. And anybody that knows about Lawrence North basketball knows that he has always been involved in the state championships and everything at Lawrence North.
Yes.
But we talked about Lawrence North football, and he just said that those kids are out there. They're buying into football. It's 24/7. They do the workouts, and before they never used to get the basketball players out at Lawrence North. Now he said they had a couple of them out.
Well, and a lot of that they're getting basketball players out there to be wide receivers.
Yeah.
And the one thing I remember when I was coaching at South Bend Adams, we were trying to get the basketball players to come out, and the football coach, they said, "Well, coach, I don't want to get hit." And the football coach looked at him square in the eye and says, "I don't want you to get hit either." Said, "I want you to run pattern. I want you to catch the ball and get out of bounds or get on the ground. I don't want you to take any hits." And
all right, so
a lot of them did that. Saturday.
Could you imagine Mike Conley back in the day playing wide receiver?
Oh boy,
no, or playing
Greg Oden,
quarterback,
and Greg Oden playing tight end,
or even playing a corner, be a cover corner. On Saturday, the 1A game, I think surprised a lot of people. Especially up here, North Judson.
I would have bet North Judson would have won that game, right?
North Judson had been steamrolling people up here, and Clarksville Providence, surprised some people.
And their quarterback ran for 250 yards against a very stout Judson defense. That was the difference in the game. They couldn't do anything else, but they just kept running quarterback counters, a lot of read option, and he ran for 220 and ran all over the Judson defense.
So 35-20 he ran all over.
Yeah, he sure did. It was all him. And it was all him. He scored all touchdowns.
35-20.
Yeah, so I would have thought that would have been I would have thought that would have been the North's chance to get a championship.
I think you're right. In 3A, People was wondering how good's Bishop Luers, and they found out not quite good enough. And it was an Indianapolis team; it was an Evansville team. Heritage Hills, again this year, they've been good the last couple of years. 3A Heritage Hills put it to them 38-15 in the 3A, and then in the night game, Decatur Central had everybody back from last year. They beat up on Warsaw pretty well, 38-24. So the South won, as you said, John, 5 of the 6 ball games.
5 of the 6, and that's not a surprise. That's really not
kind of the way it's been. So again, we could get into some long discussions about people like Crown Point. How soon do they do the same thing? Maybe Penn's trying to do is get out of that conference, become an independent possibly, and go down and play Indianapolis schools, go play some Illinois public school teams, get themselves ready for the playoffs.
And Penn was doing that for a while. They were playing up in Michigan.
Yes,
they were playing St. X in Ohio, and that always seemed to help them. And then obviously the NIC changed some things, and now they don't want to travel as much. You got that 300-mile travel rule that's involved.
Right.
But I do think we're going to see some more independency from a lot of these kids. There's a debate about public schools and private schools.
You're always going to have that.
Because Illinois has a public school tournament and they have a private school tournament.
Well, so does Texas.
Go to that. So does Texas too. Yeah. Okay.
The only private school this year was Providence at 1A that won the state championship.
Well, so one of the things that you got to look at is Crown Point is not far away. I mean, they're not far away from winning that 6A championship, and Crown Point has all of the things that the schools in Southern Indiana have. They have the indoor practice facility. They have the strength coach in-house working with kids during the school day. They have great athletes, and what happened in Penn's heyday? Okay, Penn would go down and play Cincinnati Muller. They would play some of those schools in Cincinnati, and would maybe lose a game or two, but they would make themselves a tournament ready. Yes. And then when they went down to play Ben Davis and Carmel, they were pretty much on par with those teams. But now those teams in Southern Indiana, Ben Davis, Carmel, Brownsburg, they all have the indoor field house. They all have the college strength training room. They all have the college strength training coaches, and anything that a kid wants to do from a football standpoint, he can pretty much do in Southern Indiana. But now you got to take a look at the schools in Northern Indiana, and I don't think Crown Point is far away from that scenario.
Right. In your Indianapolis schools, if you want to somehow create an analogy, they're kind of the Southeast Conference of Indiana, where their conference is very, very good. They beat up on each other every week, just like we said. Brownsburg and Lawrence North, and these guys are all in the same conference. And Noblesville, Westfield, and they see each other every week. And 1 or 2 losses during the season, being conference champion really doesn't mean as much as it does maybe to some other group of people, because they're getting themselves ready for the tournament.
Well, and no disrespect to South Bend schools. But you take a look at the NIC that Penn's involved with. Penn would probably be better off being involved in the NLC, because those are better football schools. But when half of your schedule is going against Riley, is going against Adams, is going against South Bend, Washington, those are games, and players know that you don't have to get up and be ready to play those games.
That's hard to motivate people.
Yeah, and Penn playing Mishawaka Marion, but back in the day, in South Bend, Mishawaka Marion was so doggone good that when Penn played Mishawaka Marion, that wasn't a cupcake. When Penn played South Bend, Washington, back in the day when Alan Sepka was the quarterback and Pat Decca and those guys were just monsters at Washington, and they had great discipline. They had great coaching. I mean, the South Bend, Washington was really good. Adams was really good back in the day.
In the 80s, yes.
Riley with a kid named Ole Galloway. And I know these are names that are coming out of the 70s, but the South Bend schools in football have regressed so terribly that having them in the league and having Penn having to play those schools, I mean, you don't get any better when you play those schools.
And we even mentioned this year with Crown Point and Dunlan, I think they said they went the entire season with a running clock in every ball game. That's not going to help them. But that just happens to be this year. Next year could be entirely different.
Yeah, in the 1997-98 basketball season, when I was at Anderson, and I knew that we had a chance to be really good. So as a matter of fact, we were going to either win the state or the team that beat us in the regional was going to win the state. Mm-hmm. And I said that from the first day of practice. Well, so we went to play, and we canceled a couple one-year contracts. We went to play St. Joseph's of Westchester, Illinois, the school where Isaiah Thomas played at. Mm-hmm. We played them in a tournament. We played DeMatha in a tournament.
Right.
We played every school that was going to be ranked in the top 10 that year, because I knew that was a year that we had a chance. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you could go 20-0, but not put yourself in position to be successful in the state tournament.
Right.
And when I said the team that comes out of the Anderson Regional is going to win the state, it was a full house. It was the Anderson Indians playing Pike. Mm-hmm. And Pike or Anderson was going to win the state. And that night we missed 7 free throws. And I don't care, who we would have played. We never missed 7 free throws. But we missed 7 free throws, and we lose by a game
in your own gym.
Yeah, in the wigwam where there were 9,878 people in those seats, and we lose by a point. Mm-hmm. So when you can project those kind of teams that you're going to have, then you got to go out and you got to schedule that way, right?
I totally agree, and that's where you've got to find an athletic director that's willing to let you do that.
Yeah, and you got to buy in some games. I mean, there were some people on the schedule where I just said, hey, listen, guys, whatever the fine is, and I think the fine was $500. I said, if we got to pay you $500, we'll pay you $500, but we're not playing you this year. We'll pick this contract up next year again. But we want to really beef this schedule up because I think we have a chance. And most of those athletic directors were really cool. Now, some of them were like, hey, heck, you're paying me $500. And I said, I ain't paying you $500, but my athletic director will pay you $500, and we'll pick you up the following year. And then if you ever need to do that with us, if you ever need to say, hey, heck, we need to drop you for a year because we have a great team and we're gonna, bump our schedule up, I'm cool with that.
Right.
And I'm sure you knew when you had some great teams in Adams, but I don't think that ever affected you because you always played a hard-ass schedule at Adams, right?
Our non-conference schedule, I thought, was next to none up here in the northern part of the state. I think that's one of the reasons we had a lot of kids that came to Adams, because they knew on Saturday night we were going to go play some good people. And I think my career record represents that, because if we were 12-8, 14-8, whatever that might have been, I thought that was a good year because we were ready to play in the tournament. Because our whole attitude at tourney time was just like you're saying. We might not win the sectional, but you've got to beat us if you want to win it. And that was one of the things we always told the kids. And
was
they
that
bought it.
97, 98 Pike team? Was that a Chris Thomas team?
The 98 Pike team was Chris Thomas. Chris Thomas was a freshman. And, of course, everybody knows Chris Thomas came to Notre Dame and went on to have a great career at the University of Notre Dame. Chris Thomas, they had a shooting guard named Isaiah, and I can't remember his name. I did not take my Magic Mind this morning. And by the way,
because that team won the Tournament of Champions. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, they were really good. Their head coach was a guy named Alan Darner, who was the head coach at Anderson Highland for a number of years. They had a kid named Mike Campbell who had got out of prison around Christmas. He got out of prison around Christmas time. He I don't know what he stole. He stole something. They let him out of Christmas time. He was an animal, man. He was probably 6'7", 240. Rodney King, by the way, played at Purdue.
Okay.
And Rodney was probably 6'7", 6'8", and Pike was really, really good. And then that 1997-98 team of the Anderson Indians was the team that went to DeMatha in Washington, D.C. and beat DeMatha. And that DeMatha game is a whole game in itself. When Morgan Wooten tried to sandbag me and say, heck, he said, listen, man, don't worry about this game. All the money is raised for organ donation awareness. Kept patting me on the back. Everything's going to be good. Heck, everything's going to be good. Don't worry about it. And I come out and I'm watching warm-ups, and my neck is sore from looking up at the player. 7-footer, 6'10", 6'9", point guard was 6'5". But Morgan comes over. Everything's going to be okay. Heck, we're raising money for organ donation. I bought into it until about the first 30 seconds, and I'm saying to myself, what did I do? The Anderson people, they I don't even know if they bought airplanes, but they filled like 2 or 3 airplanes up and flew people to Washington, D.C., and then 30 seconds into the game. Here's the real deal. 30 seconds into the game, I look down at Morgan Wooten. He's beat red, screaming at his players, and I'm saying, okay, Morgan, he's trying to sandbag me that everything's going to be cool.
Pulled a Lou Holtz
Yeah,
on you.
and so then it was a great game, but DeMatha ended up 33-1 that year, and the Anderson Indians were the only team to beat him.
Well, do you remember?
Kind of like the 2014 Greensburg Pirates.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, no. You beat Greensburg.
They were like 25-1. We were the one.
We were the one.
Yeah.
At their place. But I was going to say, the week before you went to D.C., my South Bend team was down there in the Wigwam playing you guys, and they had ESPN down there shooting some footage of the game for publicity leading up to that game, because my kids all reminded themselves the next week they saw themselves on TV getting dunked on.
No. I mean, my wife and I are putting some new flooring downstairs in our family room. So we had go through a bunch of stuff. I'm going through a bunch of stuff, and I find this article from the South Bend Tribune, and it's when Pat was bringing his Adams team down to Anderson, and they interviewed Pat and they interviewed me in the South Bend Tribune, and they had pictures of both of us. I looked like I was like 19. Pat looked like he was 18.
I had my
back
driver's
in
license.
97, 98.
Yeah, we were youngsters.
And we talked about that game. And and obviously that was exciting for Pat, because Pat is from Anderson, and Pat played in the Wigwam back when you couldn't get a ticket, when every game was a sellout and every game was a standing room only game, right?
Yeah, that was good times back in the 70s. There was nothing else to do. Everybody worked at the factory, and the factories were going 24/7, 3 shifts. And that's what they used their money for on Friday nights. They bought season tickets and came to the Wigwam to watch the Indians.
So I found this interesting, and I didn't really know, John. I'm just kind of a little South Bend kid who just loved playing basketball, loved hanging out. But when I first got to Anderson, like 2 or 3 guys from the factories would always call me like on a Wednesday, and they'd say, "Hey, Ron, this is so and so, blah blah blah. How are the Indians practicing this week?" I'd say, "We're doing pretty good," and they say, "Any injuries this week, Ron?" And I'd say, "Well, why are you asking me?" Well, come to find out, they all had the tip boards going in the factories.
Oh yeah.
And they wanted to know who wasn't playing and who was going to play. And after 2 or 3 weeks, one of them came to me and he said, Hey, how would you like to be in on the action here? I said, "What do you mean in on the action?" And they said, "We win, we cut you in."
Yeah, there were tip boards everywhere.
Stop.
And you got to remember, the factories were, like I said, they were going full speed ahead. There was no sense of close. The energy shortage hit my senior year when things started. The gas prices went up a little bit, and all the things started shutting down a little bit. But junior year, it was full steam ahead. Matter of fact, that's when our schedule changed, when we quit playing South Bend St. Joe and started playing Carmel, because it was closer.
Yeah, exactly.
And we used to play Jeffersonville. We quit playing Jeffersonville, and I think we picked up Alexandria, because we didn't play in those little county schools back in the day.
Yeah, so we're telling you, John, about the good old days of both Anderson. Talk to me about some of the good old basketball days in South Bend here.
Oh, I'll tell you, the 70s and 80s were just great. And, I can remember that there's this little state runner-up team there from the east side of South Bend. Steve Austin was on that team. Jeff Hull was on that team.
Yeah, I remember them.
You remember them?
Yeah. Shush, I remember.
No, 1973.
73, right.
Yeah.
Was that Herman Helicopter?
Yeah, he was on that team too.
They beat you in
exactly.
I remember.
Yeah, that's why I had to remind him.
Yeah.
But
I remember.
But when Dave Hadaway coached at Adams, it really didn't matter how good or bad they were, that's what you did on Tuesday night, Friday night, or Saturday. You went to the Eagles Nest. You went to the shack, and you watched Adams play.
That's where it got its name, the Hadaway Shack.
Actually, and now it's all closed off, but the stage area used to be where the band used to play, right there behind the basket. And it was intimidating for a lot of opposing teams to come in there because we were loud and proud and everything else, and that was fun. Those were the days.
And I think you have a picture of me in the middle of the floor when they tore the floor up during the renovation. It's sitting in a photo album somewhere. I still remember the old stage.
Yeah, we've got all that. But I remember Jeff Hull telling me stories, Steve Austin telling me stories about when they played, the basket at the stage end was on the stage.
Yeah,
it was shorter. I don't know if you remember that or not, Heck. It was not anchored from the ceiling. It was on the stage. It was a wooden thing.
The only thing I remember about the John Adams gym when I played was looking up at Glenn Sudhop's kneecaps, because Glenn Sudhop was 7'1",
right?
And I'm saying, wait a minute, I got to guard this cat, or looking at Pinhead, Ashby. Darrell Ashby. I mean, Ashby was long,
right?
But I still say this, and I know Rich will agree with me on this. I think the best high school team in that era, in the 70s, the mid 70s, was the Riley team of 1973. I thought Ricky King was the smoothest and the best player that I had ever seen, and he reminded me so much of Roy Taylor from Anderson, just long and lanky, could score at will, and then Riley had Turk Chambliss, about 6'7", 6'8", inside, had T.D. Shelton, just a little water bug jet of a point guard, and they were coached by the great Don Coddens, which is Rich's uncle, and I thought they were the best high school team I'd ever seen. And then TD gets a little injury. TD Shelton, I think, bruises his thigh. Turk Chambliss hurts his groin a little bit. And in my junior year, we're playing them in the sectional semifinals. And I'm going, are you kidding me? This is Ricky King we're playing against? And somehow we beat Riley. Otherwise, you probably would have seen Riley downstate instead of Adams.
Well, I think Adams' teams had 5 or 6 losses that year, and they actually had a better record the following year. And I don't think they got out of the sectional the following year.
Well, I mean, we beat Adams in the regular season by 20.
Yeah.
But Adams during that time period had a great player themselves and a kid named Jimmy Webb.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember Jimmy Webb?
Oh yeah.
I mean, Jimmy Webb,
probably
I don't know, was 6'5".
Players, yeah.
Was 6'5", was wide, had a wide ass, and his game was like who from Notre Dame?
Adrian Dantley,
AD. And he was so good. Steve Austin is battling some health problems now. And I love Steve Austin, man. He was just a great competitor. And I love Steve. He was a great player. Booney Hill.
Right.
You remember Booney Hill?
Yep.
He was a great little point guard.
Val Martin was on that team.
Yep.
Val Martin was on that team. Kevin Patterson was a great baseball player. He was on that team. So and even before those teams, you had Ken Allison at LaSalle. You had John Laskowski and Tom Abernathy at St. Joe.
Yep.
You had players everywhere, and then a little bit after, and you had the great Pat Magley.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't forget the Mag.
You can't forget Mag.
You get to the late 70s, you've got the Magleys, you've got
still
Chicken
on the wall.
Jackson at Adams, you've got Palambizio was over at Rogers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Pat was probably 6'4", and he had an afro that made him like 6'9".
Yeah, you got Lenny Mitchum, who I've got to mention because his birthday was the other day too.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm friends with Lenny on Facebook.
And he plus he's a Butler Bulldog, so I have to mention that.
Yeah, so South Bend basketball and even basketball everywhere. Rochester, Bruce Grimm. I mean, basketball was so big in the mid 70s and in the 80s, in this area. And people want to say that, oh man, basketball in Anderson, 10,000 fans every game. Well, that was true. But the gyms here were full too.
They were full here.
They were full.
Well, let's talk some more basketball here. How about we take a break? We'll get our people in here and guests. We'll get them included and go from there. Scott, you want to take a break and then we'll come back with our company.
Yep, we will be right back with more of the Hall of Fame edition of Coach's Corner with Heck and King.
Medicare plans can be confusing, but they don't have to be. I'm Tony Letcher, licensed insurance agent. I can help you compare your options because I'm appointed with many nationally recognized carriers. With my help, you can find the coverage that fits your needs and budget. I don't want you to be my client today. I want you to be my client forever. Call Tony Letcher today to schedule your free consultation or visit tletcher.com.
Facing the loss of a loved one can be overwhelming, filled with questions and stress. Han Funeral Homes in Mishawaka is here to provide compassionate support during these challenging times. With a deep commitment to the families they assist, Han Funeral Homes aims to deliver exceptional care and service. Their dedicated team of experienced funeral directors and staff is ready to guide and support you through every aspect of funeral planning. Located at 505 West 8th Street in downtown Mishawaka, Han Funeral Homes invites you to reach out at 574-255-1474 or visit their office for personalized assistance. Han Funeral Home, a family serving families. Looking to get your driver's license and hit the road with confidence? Choose Frick's Driving School, Northern Indiana's top-rated driving school. At Frick's, they offer expert instruction for anyone aged 16 and up, tailored to help you master the skills you need for a lifetime of safe driving. Their experienced instructors ensure you're well prepared for both the written and behind-the-wheels tests, and one of those instructors is our very own Coach King. Located on Addison Road in Mishawaka, they provide flexible scheduling and personalized lessons to fit your needs. Plus, they offer the state driving test in-house for just $65, making the process even more convenient. Call them today, 574-256-0650, or visit fricksdrivered.com to learn more. Hey, we're back with more Coach's Corner with Heck and King. And we will introduce you all to our Hall of Fame guests here just in a second.
Yeah, no, that's the Black Sedan Band. Are you kidding me? From Birmingham, Alabama, drummer Donnie Hecklinski. They're absolutely phenomenal and they're great. And I will have to say this: we've been really good here tonight, and I got to give all the praise to Magic Mind. Reduces your levels of stress, gives you steady, calm energy, focus, and clarity. And the benefits improve the more you take it. MagicMind.com. Pull it up, see what you think. And I know my wife's birthday every year. I get her birthday right. Are you kidding me?
You better.
About time. Every year I get her birthday right. She's been very thankful for me for that. But we have a couple of great coaches here. We just found out that we were all blessed. I don't know if we paid voters to be on the committee. I don't know that. Maybe we did. Maybe we didn't. But we have the great Dave McCullough and the great Jimmy Shannon with us on Zoom today. And guys, how you doing, man?
Doing great. How you doing, Ed?
Hi, Jimmy.
Good, man.
Dave,
I'm good, man.
Doing?
Mac, what's up? You good, Mac?
Waiting to see if he can hear us or not.
He's got to hit that unmute button, man.
He may need my wife to help him because she's.
Hello.
Mac, what's up, man?
There we go.
How are you? Can you hear us, Mac?
Anybody home, he says.
Can you hear us, Mac?
He should.
Man, get Brenda over there to help you hit that unmute button.
That's funny. Jimmy, let me see those glasses. You look really professor. Hey, Jimmy, hold that ring up a little closer.
What? Oh.
Let me see that ring. No, yeah.
You meant my wedding ring, didn't you?
No, yeah, the other one.
Yeah, no, the state championship ring, man.
All right.
So here's my question, Jimmy Shannon, the head coach at New Albany, and I've had like 10 people call me and say, is Jimmy Shannon going in with the goatee, or is he shaving that off? Is he going in looking clean, or is he going in looking mean?
Good question. If I lose some weight, I might shave it off. It hides the double chin really well.
Oh man.
Remember, you're the youngest one of the bunch out here, so you have to show up a little bit.
Hey, is Dave on yet?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, there you are.
Yes. Can you hear us?
I can now. Yeah.
Hey, listen, we were just
You're just
talking about,
teasing me, man.
and I know you were involved in this back in the day, and we were just talking about how good basketball was in the mid '70s, and obviously we were talking about Anderson and those kind of scenarios, but basketball up here in Northern Indiana. Of course, you're from LaVille High School. I mean, you were part of basketball here in the '70s, and it was great when we talk about the players that were here, the Jimmy Webbs, the Steve Austins, the Ricky Kings. Now, okay, you saw it from a county standpoint because you weren't actually in the city, but you saw good South Bend basketball, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. But I was out in the sticks, so the Plymouths and the Bremans and the John Glenn's, and there were some guys that could hoop out there too.
Yeah, no, without question. As a matter of fact, Pat and I went to a Notre Dame practice. I don't know, about 10 days ago, maybe.
It's been a couple of weeks
and
now, yeah.
we saw the great Jack Edison at the practice. And he looks like he's about 5'4" now, right?
Yeah, he's shrunk.
He's about 80 years old, but he loves, and he's in there taking notes and everything. I mean, what a great coach Jack Edison was back in those days.
Oh, absolutely. He's when I got the job at North Judson, he's one of the first guys I went and talked to try to pick his brain. A lot of respect for that man.
Yeah. Hey, so Jimmy and Dave, I can tell you how I got the call. Wayne Barker's on the committee, and so Wayne Barker has Joey Bradburn on this like 5-way call. He's got Chris Benedict, who both of those guys played at Wapahani for me. He's got Dean Huppert, who was a local sportscaster here, but was my athletic director at Mishawaka. And he's got my daughter Stephanie. He's got her on the phone. It's like a 5-way call. And I've been going through, kind of some dark days with my neck, trying to get over this broken neck. And, Wayne calls and gives me the news, and then all those other people chime in. And it was just it was a great day from the standpoint of I was in kind of a dark place, and he couldn't have told me anything more that would have lifted my spirits any better than a little slap like me being in with the heavyweight coaches like you guys being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Tell me about your moments, and we'll start with Jimmy. How did the call come to you? Who called you? Was there anybody else in on the call? Talk about that a little bit, Jimmy.
Mike Broughton called me, and I had missed his call. He left me a voicemail, which he'll call me from time to time about various things. I just assumed he was calling me about a player down here that maybe he was wanting to look at for the Indiana All-Stars. So I called him back, and we talked for a little bit. He didn't just blurt it out, but he certainly told me, and he was happy and excited about it, and it was great news. So that's exactly who told me.
What about you, Dave?
Well, I had missed a call from Dave Nicholson, and Nick was at Noblesville prior to my coming there, and sandwiched in between us was Pete Smith. And when I got the job, I called Dave, and so I've known Dave for a number of years, and I'd missed his call, called him back. I was coming home from practice and driving through in a car, and so Nick told me about it. So it was nice. It was exciting. I could hear the excitement in his voice, and that it was pretty special.
Yeah. So then I don't know, a day or two later, somebody called me, and I'm not going to divulge who it was, but called me and said, hey, Heck, did you hear who the other guys that got inducted were? Well, I didn't, because obviously Wayne is such a professional guy. But then, this other person, I'm not going to say he's not professional, but I got it out of him. But he said, "Oh yeah," he said, "Man," he said Lloyd Kerr and Floyd Kerr. He said Bryce Drew. He said, a couple other guys, and then he said Dave McCullough and Jimmy Shannon. And then he gave me names after that, which I did not even choose to listen to, because as soon as I heard Dave McCullough and Jimmy Shannon,
that was enough.
No, it was like, are you kidding me? I mean, we fought these wars. I was a head coach for 30 years because I had spent 5 years at the college level, and then I had spent 5 years out of it before I went back to Mishawaka. But both Jimmy and Dave have been guys that have been in for 40 years, and it's really been our whole life. But I remember then calling Dave, and I said, "Hey Dave, this is Heck." He goes, "Hey Heck, what's up, man?" And I said, "Anything special happening?" And I knew Dave, you were kind of on the edge, saying, "Man, how does this cat know? And if he does know, I can't say, or if he doesn't know, I can't say anything to him about it, right, Dave?"
Well, you said, "Don't you have something to tell me?" I said, "No, I don't think so. Don't you have something to tell me?" And it's kind of back and forth, and then we both spilled it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy, can you believe these two were roommates at Manchester College?
I know, Pat. That's awesome.
And that's
good
something.
to see you, by the way, Coach King.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Been a while.
Yeah. Heck called me too, and it took me a minute. He said, "What's going on? What's new?" And I thought, well, shoot, somebody's told him. I didn't know he was in. I didn't know anybody.
He just knew you were in.
Yeah. So Jimmy
goes on to congratulate me. What a guy.
So Broughton was legit. He just told you were in. He didn't tell you anybody else, huh?
No.
That's interesting. That's funny. Hey, let me throw another name out there. Give me a timeline. Were you still at Anderson when Troy Lewis came through there in the early 80s? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Or were you already gone?
I was still there. The ironic thing is, I spent my last 2 years of college helping at Anderson, just a volunteer coach. But I went to both JV practice and varsity. So I learned a lot and spent a lot of time doing it, had a lot of enthusiasm for it. I can't imagine now being there that long, but I did. They both ran a good 2-hour practice, and I just go back and forth to Ball State, home, back to Ball State, home, and I just really lucky and fortunate to be able to do that. But I did that for a couple of years, and then after I got my degree, I taught at Anderson for a couple of years and coached the freshman team before I left for North Decatur. So, yeah, Troy was. Here's the funny thing about this. I think, to me, it is. Troy and I left at the same time. I want to say 1984, but I may be off. But the year we left, he went to Purdue as Mr. Basketball.
Mr. Basketball.
Division I player, and I was pretty much a Mr. Average Nobody. I was off to North Decatur, and then when all these years later we go into the Hall of Fame at the same time, it's surreal for me. And, time just has a way of, you just never know what's going to happen. But if you'd have told me when I left at 24 and Troy was, 18, I guess, someday because I thought for sure he was already in anyway. But when I found out he was going in, it's a pretty neat story for me.
So you got to think back to those days for a minute, Jimmy, because back in 1983, when Troy was a junior and I believe his brother Scotty was a senior, you guys played in the regional, obviously, at the Wigwam. And can you remember who you beat in the opening game of the regional in 1983?
Oh boy.
Jimmy.
Hey, I fought some more since then.
Jimmy.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah, but this is a pointed question.
It was somebody from the north.
Well, it was a regional. It could be a Kokomo team or a Marion team.
You guys are slaps, man. I'm just
Is
telling
it somebody named Blackman?
No,
Marion?
you played Wapahani. You played the Wapahani Raiders.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did.
Really?
That's right.
Played the Wapahani Raiders.
Wapahani?
And I was the
They were-
head coach
They
at
were in
Wapahani.
You guys were in the Blackford sectional?
We were in the Blackford sectional. We beat Blackford, and we come over to the Anderson regional. And so I'm the head coach at Wapahani, and we're sitting on the end, underneath the baskets, and it's the first time I ever coached from underneath those baskets, and I'll never forget. We're coming into the wigwam, and we have a squad car that's leading our bus into the wigwam, and the sirens are going, and there's a game before. We're the second game. And we walk into this is Wapahani from Muncie. I mean, if you went to a movie in the city of Muncie, that was a big thing for Wapahani. So we walk in, we look at the wigwam, and it goes up and up and up and up with 10,000 people. And again, it's the same kind of comment I had when I took my team to play DeMatha in Washington, D.C. I'm looking and I'm going, what have I gotten us into?
Mm-hmm.
And the great Troy Lewis, Scotty Lewis, just a great team. We played with Anderson for about a quarter. As a matter of fact, we had the lead after one, and then Anderson just took over. And then, like you say, time. Time has this way, but then so many years later, I'm blessed to come out of Ball State. We win. We do some nice things, and I get the Wapahani job. No, not the Wapahani job, the Anderson job. And now I'm in that building, Jimmy, for 18 years, man.
Yeah.
I know. I say, Dave, you probably got some opinions about the Anderson Regional, don't you, from your Noblesville days?
Well, we played heck about every year.
Yeah,
every year, man.
Yeah, we went a different route. Dave Nicholson they went over to Anderson, and we went up, started going up to Frankfurt.
Oh, they changed things around. Well, I know nobody wanted to come to Anderson for the regional. They always wanted to have their own. I know Kokomo was always mad because they had to come clear down to Anderson for the regional. I just remember that from the old days too.
Tell us about
pretty friendly.
Yeah. Tell us about your career, Dave.
Huh?
Tell us about your career. I mean, we both started at Richmond as assistant coaches at Richmond, and then you left Richmond and went to North Judson, which was really the start of your head coaching career. Talk about that for a minute. The start of your career.
Well, I think we both got riffed. That's when they were doing reduction in force. So we lost.
Yeah.
And
they probably did their school corporation a great service by getting us out of the classroom at Richmond, Indiana, right? So kids could learn.
Two quality teachers, just happened to be young.
Yeah.
No, I went down for 2 months with J.R. Holmes down in Mitchell, and we were living outside of Paoli, and got a phone call from Dave Carrington and went up to interview and ended up taking the job up there with Dave. So I was his assistant coach for a couple of years. Learned a lot from that man.
So that's where Carrington's name comes in. I never, with all these camps and stuff that you were involved with, I never really paid that much attention to it. Interesting.
Yeah, and then you were there for how many years before you got the head job?
I was there 2 years with Dave. He came more from LaFille, but he was up at St. Joe with Larry Radecki, and he came from there to LaVille, then left LaVille, took the Judson job, and I was his assistant for a couple of years. And then I took over at North Judson.
And so how many years did you stay there? And talk about the great player that you had, Kirk Mans.
Well, I was there 11 years. And as you guys all know, man, guys like that make you so much smarter. And, he could shoot, but we didn't have 3-point line at that time. And shoot, man, most of his shots came from that area, and he scored just shy of 2000, he would have had a slew more. But I know we started him as partway through his freshman year, and he led the state in scoring for a couple of years, and that was a nice way for me to kick off a career. So
yeah, and then from North Judson, didn't you go to Noblesville? I mean Noblesville, my bad.
Yeah.
Noblesville, my bad. Yeah.
Back then, that's what we called it.
It's a good thing you're living up north, buddy, because if you were down closer, they send the guys out for you.
Jimmy knew exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then you were Noblesville for 18 years, right?
20.
Oh man, what a great!
We got to play. Well, we played Jimmy when he was at Lebanon, and played you at Anderson. But yeah, we had some pretty good players there.
You had a Mr. Basketball, didn't you?
Yeah, a guy by the name of Coverdale. There's another guy that made me look smarter.
He's good.
He when you have guys like that helps out a ton, obviously. But it was a good place, and spent 20 years there, and then spent 7 years at Shenandoah.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought out of your career, Shenandoah was kind of the hidden gem, because when you left Noblesville, and you were in the highest level of basketball in the state of Indiana, and then you took the Shenandoah job, which I always thought was a great job. Bob Hetty and all those guys just did such a great job there, and then you elevated that program at Shenandoah during your time there.
Yeah, there was immediate buy-in. That was pretty nice. First year and coming in, and we won 20 and did that for 6 years in a row, and won 5 sectionals in a row and a regional. It ended up being a nice, really nice place. Plus, part of those years, my youngest son was playing for me. The older one played for me at Noblesville, so that was special too.
Yeah, and then you left there, went to and you became a hot dog for a year, right?
I was a hot dog for a year, yep. And now it's come full circle, because I started at Manchester with you, buddy. We were Spartans, and I'm a Spartan again.
Yeah, at Connorsville. And so back in the day, Pat, you remember this, how Connorsville was so freaking good and playing in that pit in Connorsville.
Yeah.
And I always thought Connorsville was just a really, really good job. I know you're going through the building process there, but I mean, I'm confident as hell to know that program will get turned around. Do you like it there so far?
Yeah. Last year was a little rough, but Kerry's there. Kerry did a great job. Kerry Brown, outstanding coach. He did a great job there. All he did there was win, and he left things a little dry last year as far as experience. But got some good kids. They're working hard. Yeah, it's I like those guys.
Yeah, and Jimmy, I mean, your career, like you said, started out at Anderson as an assistant coach, and then I think your first head coaching job was at North Decatur.
Yeah, correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk about your career kind of a little bit.
Well, I went to North Decatur for 3 years, and the names that he's mentioning, I've coached against. Dave Carrington was at Jacksonville for a little while, and we coached against each other, and he was a fantastic coach. I learned so much from just getting the tapes out and going back then. Pretty sure we were on VHS, but I learned a lot just having to go up against him. He ran so much good stuff, and got my butt kicked, I'm sure, by him. But he was a really good coach. And Kirk Mans coaches at Seymour, and he's done a well of a job there. He's, I think, taken less and got more out of the kids that he has, and they've been really good the last 2 or 3 years, really good. And so those people that Coach McCullough was around, I've also been around them, but not working with, but working against. And I'm really good friends with Kirk now. He and I, we'll chat now and then, and his wife Lisa and everything. So I really like them. They're wonderful.
Well, you play about half your games in their gym with the tournaments and everything.
Yeah, I do like Seymour. I really did. And then I went to South Dearborn. I was at North Decatur for 3 years, and then had really good administration there. Really, Don Criswell and Joe Stanley, who both passed. Don just passed within the past year, and Joe a little bit before that, but attended both those visitations within the year. So that was tough for us. Wonderful people who really helped me a lot, because I was just 24. You think you know everything, but you don't know anything. And so then I went on to South Dearborn and got a lot of help from Bill Slay back there. I was there 6 years, and then went to Lebanon for 5 years. And then I was at New Albany for 25, quarter of a century.
Wow. What a great run you had at New Albany. And obviously, when you were at Lebanon, that's when you and I crossed paths a lot, because, we traded a lot of tapes. We played a lot of the same people, and we used to talk all the time about, certain teams and blah, blah, blah. And we got to know each other really well when you were at Lebanon.
Yeah. It was a great place to be. Tough. It's a tough place to coach, but really nice people there, and had quite a few good players. But when the time came that New Albany opened, I just thought that was a school a lot like Anderson, and I had been hoping that I would get a chance to coach in more of a city environment. It's certainly not inner city, but it's still a city job, and I was really looking for that. And so I moved all the way down there. And I don't think that I don't know one person probably south of Columbus at the time. I had interviewed the Jeffersonville job years earlier when Mike Broughton got it. Was in on a lot of jobs that other people got. Coach McCullough at Noblesville, yourself at Anderson, and then Mike down at Jeffersonville. So just been blessed. Has so many great players. That's really what makes it go. And so many great assistant coaches, and really I credit for anything that I know. I credit the coaches I went up against. I learned as much from them as I did from anybody else, just by virtue of studying film, going to clinics, talking to them, just trying to really pick people's brains that I thought were outstanding coaching. That's the great thing about being in the Hall of Fame is your family gets to enjoy that. Some of the people that are still around get to enjoy that. Sadly, some of them won't, because they've already passed. But for me, that's the greatest thing, is just to think about other people, because I realize had some other people been in my shoes, they probably would be going in. There's a lot of great coaches who will never get to go in because they just weren't presented with the kind of talent that gets you those kind of wins and that kind of thing. And that's not lost on me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the 3 years I was down there at Madison, our kids always enjoyed coming over to New Albany. They knew they were fighting an uphill battle, but just the idea they get to come to the big city and play a very good New Albany team. And we were competitive the 3 years we were down there. So was unusual.
Was Romeo on the team when you played him?
No, I think he was a 7th and 8th grader. All I remember Jimmy was talking about with Romeo was trying to make sure he was coming to New Albany, because Jimmy will tell you. I didn't want to lose my job. Yeah, 7th and 8th grade, there were a lot of people that wanted at a bigger and better deal. They were always across the river, and being down there for 3 years, I finally understood that those schools across the river were very competitive in their bidding for Indiana players. That's for sure.
They got Rondell Moore.
Well, they did. But we had a good time. We had a good time down there playing in New Albany and Jeffersonville. Yeah, that's for sure.
So what Jimmy said about going after jobs, he talked about Noblesville. He talked about Anderson. I was coaching at Ball State at that time, and we had some really good success And, this was my induction into Jack Macy. I applied for the job, and I thought I had a great interview. And both of you guys know when you know you had a great interview and you think you're the right guy for the job, you walk out of there thinking, I'm going to get this job. Well, that's how my interview went with Jack Macy and the great horse Chad Byrne, and the people on the board. And so I'm sitting in my office at Ball State, and somebody comes in, and I can't remember who it was. And he says, "Heck, did you hear who the three names at Anderson are?" And I didn't really tell Dick Hunsaker that I was interviewing yet. So I said, "Hold on for a second." So I got up, I closed the door of my office. I said, "Who are they?" Because I'm thinking he's going to say me. I'm one of them. And he gives me three names, and I'm not one of them. And I think one of the names is Jimmy Shannon. I don't really know Jimmy Shannon, but then he gives me two other names. And I said, "Oh, really? Those are the three names at Anderson, huh?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's what I heard." And so he leaves. I close the door again. I get on the phone with Jack Macy. So Jack's going to be my future boss, and here I am. Jack, what the hell's going on? I had the best interview. You knew that I was the guy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm swearing. And Jack goes, "Heck, hold on. I said, "No, don't give me that hold on stuff. I'm the right guy for that job, blah, blah, blah." He tries to slow me down again, and again I'm going off a little bit, and he says, "Ron, stop." And when he said Ron, I figured, I got to stop. So he says, "What are you doing at 8:00 tonight?" I said, "What do you mean? What am I doing at 8:00 tonight?" I'm still pissed. He said, "I'm taking your name to the school board tonight. Will you accept when I take your name to the board?" So that was my induction to my AD at Anderson. And as you well know, Jimmy, Jack Macy was the salt of the earth, just the best guy ever, man.
Absolute wonderful person. He and Coach Foley, I remember being around them quite a bit in those early years. I think Mr. Macy drove our bus at that time before he became Mr. Belangi was our athletic director back in those days. And but I do know that Mr. Macy became athletic director for many, many years. When I'd go back, I'd always call him, and he'd always fix me up with a couple tickets because I always wanted to go back. Once you leave Anderson and go what I call the real world, it wasn't the real world to me. It was a fascinating place to be, at least in those days. And when you would leave there, and then it just wasn't the same. And so I always liked going home. Of course, I quit going home because I had to finally realize that I needed to be somewhere else on those Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays scouting and not going back to watch basketball because it was fun.
Yeah, it's for sure.
All right, Coach, I got a question for you. I want to know what kind of a roommate Heck was. We haven't gotten into that yet. I got to know what kind of a roommate he was.
He was a slob.
Dave, come on, man.
I was the one that always had to clean up and take care of stuff, and cover for him. But we lived together for a year down in Richmond when we were coaching. He actually was my assistant football coach at one of the middle schools.
Oh, gee.
And so we coached football together at Pleasant View Middle School.
Yes, we did.
And then he was a JV coach at the high school, and I was coaching 8th grade basketball at the time. But and go scouting for Don Rogers.
Yeah, no, Don Rogers was great, man.
That's interesting. Jimmy, did Coach Broughton give you any advice for your speech? Because last week, Tommy Debates was in here to talk to Heck, and he said one offer of suggestion as far as your speech: keep it short and be very appreciative. And Heck says, I can't tell 4 stories. He goes, no. So somewhere we got to have a button for at least for him. I don't know about the two of you.
Not for me.
He said keep it short and be very appreciative. That's all. That was Coach Debates' advice. And he won the state title in '94 up here at South Bend Clay. So I figured you better listen to him. Because Heck won't listen to me. He doesn't listen to a word I say.
Heck won't be. It won't be like a filibuster, will it? He's not going to go on forever, is he?
Oh no! Okay.
Have you watched this show? If you watch this show at all, that might be that's a good question.
We will not get
that's
into.
A good question.
And I promise you, and I say this towards Dave, we will not get into any stories from our young days. That's for sure. Right, Matt?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, so let me ask you two guys this question, because I'll follow up after I hear from both of you. But at any point during your career, did you ever think that you would be a Hall of Fame Indiana high school member? I mean, at any point. Dave, start with you first.
No, and just it's been doing it a long time, but it doesn't seem like it's never thought about that. It never was that scenario. It's more about you get in the season, it's how you're going to win your next game. And when you get out of season, it's how you're going to prepare for next year. Then you go into the next season, and it all cycles over again. But then I've seen the packet of the people that the guys, the men's, the packet on the men's side, the packet on the women's side, the packet of the deceased that they're trying to get into the Hall of Fame. And I start flipping through that, and I just keep going, he's not in. He's not. How could he not be in? And you see name after name, and then I look at that and I realize I'm not. That's not going to happen for me, because these people, I can't believe these people are not in it yet. And so to be involved, it's very. I'm very appreciative, and it's not something you don't plan for that. You didn't even think about it.
I mean, one of the things when I thought about you was that you're either the 13th or the 14th winningest coach in Indiana high school basketball history. And when I look at that and I say, because you're my friend, we've grown up the same, we started coaching the same, blah blah blah, and I say, are you kidding me? And you're talking about all these coaches that have all these wins, and you're 13th or 14th all time. I think those numbers, literally speak for themselves for you.
Well, that's just crazy to me to think about that. It's a lot of times you don't feel like I don't feel my age. I feel younger than my age. And, then you tie that into coaching. It's like, how in the world did, how did it go this long? And you survive all the ups and downs and seasons. But, thank goodness for a good wife and family, and for, outstanding players. And like Jimmy said, the coaches, the assistants that you have, those guys are invaluable, obviously, but it's just pretty surreal.
Yeah, Jimmy. So at some point in time, did you start thinking about the Hall of Fame? And I think you are the 16th most wins in Indiana high school basketball history, if I'm not mistaken on that. I mean, at some point, did you think, man, I'm going to have a chance to get into the Indiana Hall of Fame?
Well, maybe in the late years. I never thought about it when I was younger, because if you're being considered for the Hall of Fame, you're probably pretty old. I didn't want to be old, but I am now. But probably not till just the last 4 or 5 years. I'm not going to lie and say I didn't think about it. I did, because I knew I was getting towards the end. And I think when you get towards the end, you reflect a little bit more. And plus, I had people saying stuff to me all the time down here after we won the state championship. So it wasn't an everyday thing, but it was brought up. So, but to think, would I ever have this opportunity? No, I never thought about it. And I was just, like Coach McCullough said, I was just trying to win the next game. I remember when I was at North Decatur and I was 10-38. And I we were playing Richmond, and Coach Griffith was there and was an icon in basketball coaching. And I remember sitting with him, and I was like, man, Coach, I just really hope someday I get my record to 500. He started laughing. And he said, listen to me, Jimmy, you'll get there someday. Don't worry about it. You can't think like that. It'll happen. It's just funny when you reflect on older people trying to calm you down and tell you not to worry about things you really don't have much control over in those days. And I was just really fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. I knew probably when it was time to move on to the next one. I don't know if that's my timing or God's timing or whose timing it really is, but I was just blessed to be able to go places where I had great people who helped me when I needed help, who weren't afraid to tell me when I was wrong. And I learned a great deal from them, so that when I was in a situation where I would have to make tough choices, just like when you got the Anderson job and I didn't get it, that was a godsend. You were ready for it. You were much better. And I wasn't ready. So, there was no way I would have survived that job. I just wasn't ready for it. But by the time I got to New Albany, it took me 3 or 4 years to get down there and get going. I really started to understand what was going on and who I was and what we needed to do, and hired the right people, and then the talent came in, and that's really the rest of the story. Probably the most important part.
I was going to say, heck, it's just interesting, the three of you as a group, how you've kind of taken similar paths. I know Jimmy and Dave have been head coaches here a little longer than you, because you spent some time as a college assistant and a high school assistant as well. And comparing the three of you, and like my situation, I coached football for the first 10 or 15 years that I was got out of school, and was spent some time in Texas, and then figured out that it was time to come back to Indiana and started taking my chances there. So see, I'm way behind the three of you as far as wins and losses, and but it's interesting and very enjoyable for me to see three people that I know that are having a chance to get here into the Hall of Fame. I'm just really excited for all three of you.
Yeah, and so when I talk about it from my standpoint, I never really thought about it until Chris May, who was the director of the Indiana Basketball Coach Association, the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, said to me, like maybe in my second to last year at Anderson, he said, you keep rolling, man, you'll have a chance to get into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. And I thought and I kind of did what Dave kind of did, and started looking at who was in the Hall of Fame and looking at the names of those coaches, looking at their resumes, looking at their numbers. And I quickly said to myself, man, stop messing with that. Stop worrying about that. Just keep worrying about, the next day at practice, the next game. And like Dave said, when the season was over, now it's postseason workouts. Then you take a break in August, and then you start preseason workouts. And so I never really took the time to really ever think about it, to be quite honest with you. And then when Wayne Barker comes as the superintendent to Mishawaka, he says something to me, and again I'm thinking, man, you look at Dave McCullough, man, that cat's got the 13th or 14th highest win total in the history of Indiana, the history.
Well, when you told me you were getting ready to hit 420 some wins, you were going to quit because that was your mother's birthday or something.
If I would have got, I was at 420. I was at 421, the second to the last year at Mishawaka, and my mom's birthday was April 22nd. If I would have somehow got to 422 that year, I would have quit, because what a great honor that would have been to honor my mom with the number of wins on her birthday. But I didn't get it, so it forced me to coach another year.
Yeah, Jimmy, I was his assistant at the time, so he was telling me, hey, get ready, because if I get to 422, I'm quitting. They're all yours, buddy.
You got the job, man. But it never really worked out. But that, to me, when I started thinking about the number of wins and all that stuff, that was the number that I said, I got to get to 422. I got to honor my mom by getting to 422. And and then I had a little bit of an inkling, but still, when Wayne called me, and everybody knows at this point in time that I had a fall, I broke my neck. I've been struggling, trying to rehab from that. But when Wayne called, then all those things started running. I mean, all those coaches, fellas. Bill Green, look at all of them. Sam Alford, look at, Bill Harrell, all those guys that were freaking great. And Dave brought up Don Rogers. Well, Don Rogers is not in the Hall of Fame, but to me and Dave, when we were listening to him go through practices, we worked Don Rogers' basketball camp in the summertime. And I remember, I think it might have been the first or second day of summer camp, me and Dave ride in on his motorcycle, and we got flip-flops on coming into camp. And Don Rogers looks at us and goes, "Are you guys freaking crazy? Get some tennis shoes on." And so you're looking at those guys and you're saying those guys were great coaches, right? You remember that, Mac, right, man?
Yeah. I remember going to the coaches clinic as a young buck, and you walk in, you'd see, all the guys that had been around. There's so and so, there's so, and you're talking, and you're in awe of them. And then, now you go to the clinic, and the only people I know are the old ones, and we're them. So it's kind of come full circle.
Well, so Pat, you got any other questions?
I'm good. I'm just
Johnny, be good. You got anything?
I'm good. I'm just listening to these great stories, Dad.
All right, so I got to tell you that that obviously it's an honor, it's a blessing. God has been good to all of us. But when you look at it at the end of the day, and you get to go in with friends, man, with Jimmy Shannon, and I get to go in with Dave McCullough, that's like the best thing in America to me. And I want to tell you guys how much respect I have for both of you. I've told 100 people this every freaking single day. I think the best motion basketball coach in the state of Indiana has been, and always will be Dave McCullough. And then I tell people that you put, really good players with Jimmy Shannon, and it's hard to coach good players because, you have to be able to have an understanding of their ego. You have to be able to have an understanding of what everybody's expectations are. You put those players in Jimmy Shannon's lap, and he's going to coach the hell out of them. So I got to tell both of you guys, man, it's a tremendous honor for me to be able to do that with you guys.
Well, right back at you, both of you guys. It's known you both for a long time, so it's definitely an honor, and I think it's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, when Heck told me that we were all three going in together, I was overwhelmed. I was so happy. I think it's really cool. And then when he said Troy was going in, I was like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful news. And it's going to be pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I heard they give you like 4 or 5 minutes to speak, right? Listen, if you guys are going to be short a minute or two, let me know so I can pick up one of your minutes, all right? Because I got like a liver transplant story I got to talk about.
I told you, just be ready.
I'm going to send an email and ask them if they'll just let him go last. That way, if we hit midnight and people want to go on ahead and leave, we can just go.
I think that's a great idea.
Remember,
that's a great idea.
Did you guys go to the Hall of Fame last year? The banquet last year. The last guy that got up to speak was some 88-year-old man. And he said they had come down here and wake me up for me to tell me it was my turn to speak. He claimed he was down there taking a nap at the end of the table.
Yeah, and he literally said, "Hey, I got nothing to say. I'm 88 years old. I'm glad I can walk up to the mic. Thanks everybody, and I'm blessed. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. But here's the deal: unless you guys can figure this out somehow, they go by alphabetical order, right? Okay. Right. So I'll be speaking before you two guys will. So And thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know, Jimmy, you're still coaching at Charleston. You're an assistant coach, and Dave, I know you got stuff rolling, getting ready for your next game at Connersville. So thanks for taking some time out and talking some basketball. I know a lot of our listeners, will really appreciate this, and good luck to you guys, and we'll see you down the road. And can't wait to see you in March.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having us on. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Coach McCullough, good luck. I check your scores every weekend. Keep going.
Well, thanks.
All right, guys.
Congratulations, guys. You well deserved. Congratulations.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
All right, man.
Right.
Those two guys are phenomenal guys. And Pat, you grew up with Jimmy. You knew Jimmy and Anderson.
Right. Sure.
I grew up with Dave here. I mean, Dave's a LaVille guy, and we both went to Manchester. At the same time, and
he was teammate with
Mike Lightfoot.
Sure.
And one. So I should have said this when I had him on here, but we went to Florida one time together during spring break, and we were South Bend area guys. Me and Dave went with a couple other dudes. And so we're going to head down to Florida, and we're going to be on the beach. We're going to pick up chicks left and right.
Wait a minute. Should I get Dave back on here so he can defend himself?
No, he doesn't know, because this is a real simple story.
Okay.
So we're there for 2 days, and Dave gets the worst case of sunburn on his ankles and feet I've ever seen in my entire life. So here we are, a couple of Manchester guys that don't really know anything, but we're walking on the beach, and Dave's got socks on, walking around on the beach. And I'm going, Dave, how are we going to pick up any chicks? Well, you walking around on the beach with socks on. And he said, heck, I can't hardly walk. My feet hurt so much. But so to be able to do that. And then I know Rich will know these names, Lloyd and Floyd Kerr. Lloyd and Floyd Kerr from South Bend, Washington. They both passed away when I was 8 years old, because they went to school with my brother Mike. When I was 8 years old and I was playing at the park at Vorty Park, I was Lloyd and Floyd Kerr. I mean,
that was you.
Yeah, no, and when you played, you played.
Yeah.
Whoever was the player back then, that was who you were going to imitate.
Right.
And then to be able to say that I'm going into this group of great Indiana high school players and coaches with Lloyd and Floyd Kerr. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, what a thrill. I mean, I'm so happy for all three of you, especially you, since you're sitting here next to me. But you're right. There's several South Bend people involved in this Hall of Fame that we haven't mentioned, and also in the area. Bryce Drew from Valpo is involved. He and Troy Lewis were the two basketball players that I know that were basically strictly basketball. But Bryce has been coaching now. He's down at Grand Canyon. But they were both Mr. Basketballs, so they're kind of the headliners, if you want to call it, for that category of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and Scotty Hicks too from Cathedral. Played at Notre Dame,
right? And he's coaching.
He was the head coach of Broad Ripple for a lot of years.
Yes, he sure was.
So hey, why don't we take a break and let's come back and finish up some football, man. We've had some great football this past weekend.
College football. Scott, give us a break and we'll come back and talk college football.
Finding private health insurance can be stressful. What if it didn't have to be? I'm Tony Letcher, licensed insurance agent. I prefer to personally meet with my clients so I can get a better understanding of your needs and budget. I can even review your current coverage. I don't want you to be my client today. I want you to be my client forever. Call Tony Letcher today to schedule your free consultation or visit tletcher.com.
Facing the loss of a loved one can be overwhelming, filled with questions and stress. Hahn Funeral Homes in Mishawaka is here to provide compassionate support during these challenging times. With a deep commitment to the families they assist, Hahn Funeral Homes aims to deliver exceptional care and service. Their dedicated team of experienced funeral directors and staff is ready to guide and support you through every aspect of funeral planning. Located at 505 West 8th Street in downtown Mishawaka, Hahn Funeral Homes invites you to reach out at 574 888-255-1474 or visit their office for personalized assistance. Hahn Funeral Home, a family serving families. Are you ready to take the driving skills exam but haven't gone through formal driver's education? Frick's Driving School has you covered. If you're at least 16 years and 270 days old, which is like 9 months, and have held a valid Indiana learner's permit for at least 180 days, which is like 6 months, you can schedule your driving skills exam with Frick's. They provide the vehicle for the exam. Just bring yourself, a can-do attitude, and a ride to and from the office. The exam takes about 20 minutes, and appointments can usually be scheduled within a few days, and it costs $65. Call 574-256-0650 or visit fricksdrivered.com and book your exam. Hey, we're back with more of Coach's Corner with Heck and King. The Hall of Famer, Ron Heklinski, by the way. Get into some football from the weekend. Notre Dame is... I can't imagine a world where they don't go to the playoffs, so I'm sure we'll get to that here momentarily. And here they are. It's Heck and King and John.
What's up, fellas, man? What? I mean, you couldn't have had a better 40-minute talk or chat about Indiana high school basketball, right?
Oh, that was great hearing the stories of how they started their careers and how they've gotten to this point in their lives and how blessed they are. And I do want to congratulate you, Heck. Congratulations. Well-deserved going into the Hall of Fame. And I'd be remiss if we didn't congratulate Greg Humnicki, who, of course, South Bend Central product, and of course has been the longtime Northern Indiana Conference secretary and historian, former Clay athletic director, spent some time coaching on the benches as well, and he's going to get the Silver Medal Award from the Hall of Fame. So he's been so involved with the Hall of Fame for many, many years, and so congratulations to him. But congratulations to you, Heck. Very proud of you getting that honor. It should be a great time when you're inducted in March.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But if you want to talk to me about if I'm going to keep the time thing, you give a mic to Greg Humnicki.
No, I know, forget it.
I mean, you might as well go to the bathroom, eat lunch, go get a sandwich.
Yeah,
Order
and
pizza.
come back 20 minutes later.
Yeah, I don't think he gets to speak. I think he goes up there, shakes hands, waves, and
gets that medal.
keeps walking.
All right, good.
And the banquet that we were talking about is in like the second or third week of March.
It's March 19th.
Yeah, I think it's like it's the Wednesday between or right before the state finals.
Right.
Yeah, March 19th.
I think I'm going to have to miss it.
Pat and I went to the banquet last year because the great Jimmy Webb was being inducted.
Right.
And one of our good friends, Dan Dockich, was being inducted, and there were over 1,000 people there.
It's full.
It's a great humbling experience, to be honest with you. But hey, let's talk about some football here, man. Give me scenarios. Notre Dame had to win.
Well, yeah, but might as well talk about the local guys. Notre Dame had to win. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, they've been in playoff mode since they lost to
NIU, Northern Illinois.
They've been in playoff mode since then because they knew if they lose, they're out.
Yes.
So everybody keeps talking about, can they get themselves ready after a three-week break here for the tournament? Sure, they can.
Yeah, they can. And
They're going to have a home game. They better be able to.
They can get some injuries healed up a little bit. We don't know about Love, the running back, hurt his knee a little bit against Southern Cal. But
Notre Dame's in a great position right now because they don't have to play a conference tournament game. And that's one of the arguments everybody's kept saying. They need to get in a conference. They need to get in a conference. Well,
it's money. They're never going to give up the money.
No.
Come on, Cat. They're not going to give up the money.
And the only thing that means is that the best they can do is be the 5 seed.
Yeah, exactly.
And right now,
I mean, the 5 seed is where you want to be, right?
All that means the 5 seed means you don't get one of the buys, and then we can argue about, is that buy that important?
How much does Notre Dame get from their revenue share from NBC?
Many millions.
I
think multi-million.
I think the last I heard it was like $22 million, something
obviously
like that.
Enough that they're not interested in going to a conference.
They're not going to share that.
But I thought the NBC, CBS, and Fox deal that the Big Ten had was worth more than that. And so I don't know why Notre Dame wouldn't want to join the Big Ten at this point, because NBC has the rights to the Big Ten, so nothing could change.
Well, they know their game's on every week.
Yeah, exactly. and I mean, why does Notre Dame want to join the Big Ten and get their brains beat in on that Big Ten schedule?
So you could have 2 losses and still make it to the playoffs?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
That's an argument.
But I mean, I don't know if Notre Dame would have had 2 losses the way everything else is shaken out with other teams losing. And we all said that at the beginning. You know, you got a loss. I mean, don't fret about it because other teams are going to lose because with the NIL and money involved, there's more parity.
We saw the parity.
Correct. There's more parity
materialize in all the other conferences.
Yeah, and if Alabama as a 3-loss team, if they're even talking about putting Alabama in the tournament as one of the top 12 teams, then maybe if Notre Dame was a 2-loss team, maybe they would have had a shot to go in. But the defensive back saved them. Christian Gray, a 99-yard pick six, and at the time, the Southern Cal was really moving the football.
And prior to that, he had 2 pass interference,
killer pass interference
prior to that throughout the game. So he needed to. That was a big plus for him.
And then Xavier Worthy, a 100-yard pick six. So from that standpoint, I mean, I thought Southern Cal played very well. I thought their young quarterback was really, really good.
I thought so too, and I did see that the previous quarterback that got benched has already hit the transfer portal.
Yeah, no, he will, and somebody will pay him.
That would be Miller Moss.
Somewhere.
Yes.
He'll play somewhere.
And he was the heir apparent after Caleb Williams because he sat on the bench and waited his turn.
Do you guys have any fears about Notre Dame giving up 35 points to them, though? Because, I mean, that's like the first offense with a pulse that they've played here in quite a while.
I'm sure that'll be discussed here in the next 3 weeks.
Well, no,
I want you to discuss it now.
Well, no, that'll give Al Gooden what he wants because he wants an edge. He wants an edge. He wants to be able to tell his guys for 3 weeks, hey, you gave up 35 points. We got to get our shit back together.
Yeah.
How good's their run defense?
The last one was a free one.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
They did,
so basically 28 points.
Southern Cal had a nice game plan against them.
Because let's think hypothetically here. If Notre Dame's a 5 and they get Boise as the 12, I mean, how good is their run defense? Because they're going to have to try to tackle Ashton Genty all game.
Yeah, they're going to.
And we've seen what he does. He's a machine.
But you're playing at Notre Dame in the snow, and God willing, I'm going to get a ticket from Johnny Be Good.
We'll see.
And I'll say this on the air in case anything goes down on this. God willing, I'm getting a ticket to the game.
I think playing Boise will be a little different than playing a Southeast Conference team because Boise's used to playing in the cold.
Yeah.
So I don't think
here's the other scenario that I've heard from people too is Notre Dame maybe is the 6 and they get the 11th seed Indiana.
Yeah, that would be the storyline, of course.
I mean, what are people going to do? Because they're all the same fans.
That would be They just don't know which side of the reversible jacket to wear, right?
Yeah, but hey, listen, you're having a good time with all these what if scenarios, right? We haven't busted you up about your Buckeyes yet.
Exactly.
So tell me what happened with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Well, remember when they played Indiana and I said Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham are really, really good?
Yes.
They're still really, really good. And Chip Kelly and Ryan Day thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bang my head against a brick wall for 2 hours straight and try to run my running backs with a depleted offensive line straight into 2 top 15 picks at defensive tackle.
The best thing Michigan had was a D line.
Yeah.
And they challenged it, didn't they?
So what you're saying is, if I'm listening to this correctly, you're blaming the coaches. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely blaming the coaches.
You're blaming the coaches, man. Come on.
Peyton Manning's not the quarterback where he can just change the plays. Like they're running the plays that get called in.
So are you saying, and let's get this straight because our listenership is growing by leaps and bounds. Are you saying that Ohio State needs to get rid of Ryan Day?
No, the game plan was just freaking terrible because I think he's still so in his head about Lou Holtz calling him not tough, and he's so bound and determined. He's so bound and determined to try to prove that he's tough, because there's a stat that the last 23 winners of the rivalry game have won the rushing battle. But I can tell you with 100% certainty, you know what every single team since they started playing the game in like 1897 has done that also won the game?
Tell me.
Scored more points.
Well, obviously.
That didn't happen the other day, did it?
You have three of the best receivers in college football.
Yeah,
Will Johnson wasn't playing, and their secondary wasn't very good anyway.
You go to Ohio State
to run
be a
the
wide
ball.
receiver. Yeah. I mean, Ohio State has wide receivers. They've proven that.
And so, the defense played really well. I will say the defense gave up 3 points because the offense gave up 10 with those 2 interceptions. Because the two scoring drives that the Wolverines had, one was 2 yards for a touchdown after Will Howard threw an interception, and the other one was like 3 yards for a field goal after Will Howard threw another interception.
So are you ready to say that their choice of a quarterback through the portal was a poor choice?
No.
How'd that boy from Syracuse do this last weekend?
He also threw 5 interceptions and a half, so I don't want to hear it about Kyle McCord.
That's a good point.
But they did beat Miami.
Yeah. Hey, so
and they're also 9-3.
Yeah, I understand.
Pat, put them in your scenarios now. Give us your brackets.
Well, we've got the brackets and stuff. But some of the things I was going to talk about too. We talked about running the score up. We talked about style points and people. And 2 teams I think did that. IU ran the score up on Purdue. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, are Zach Osterman and Greg Doyle going to complain about the score getting run up on that one like they did against Ohio State?
Yeah, and Penn State ran a score, right?
And Penn State scored on the last play of the game. Now, albeit they did have second stringers in the game, but they threw a pass play on the last play of the game and scored, and they were already up 2 touchdowns, and it made it a 3-touchdown ball game.
Yeah,
and the coaches the coaches didn't like it, and they said, well, unfortunately, we're in a different world where we've got, the tiebreakers is who scored the most points on point spreads. So unfortunately, we had to go ahead and score when we could.
You know what I thought was a really good point that I heard from somebody that covers college football, or covers the Big Ten mostly. He said, you know what these coaches need to start telling each other? We share the same TV revenue money. Like we're fighting to get money for the programs. Like there's no love lost between any of us. If we're fighting for the same resources. Sorry, the game's 60 minutes long. We got all that time, and we're in the same conference. We're gonna keep playing.
All right. Well, let's look at some of these what ifs, because we've got some conference tournaments coming up here in the next this next weekend. Let me ask you this: Boise State, right now they're in. They play UNLV. What happens if UNLV wins? Well, is Boise State out? Does that mean UNLV is in because they would be the 5th? No. Would they be the 5th best conference champion?
What's their record?
Who are the other group of 5s?
Well, let's look and see. How about Tulane and Army? Tulane right now is in. If Army wins, are they in?
Well, Army's they got to play Navy yet, right?
They got to play Navy.
Army Navy.
That game doesn't count.
That game won't count because it's after the pairings.
I say Army's in. Well, they've lost 1 game. What's Tulane lost?
I believe they've lost 1.
Yeah, they've lost 1.
I don't have the records with me, right? I'm just looking at the so my whole point is, does this championship game make a difference?
It's on the schedule. They're playing it. It changes what their overall record is. But I say for sure.
But here's one right now, because I see some people have Arizona State as the 12 seed in the brackets coming up. Tomorrow night you'll see this. They play Iowa State. Only one of them is going to get in.
Sure.
Iowa State,
whoever
Arizona
wins.
State. Yes.
The champion gets in.
It's not both of them. All right. Now here's one.
Okay, Pat, give me a tough question.
All right.
Give me a tough one.
How about Georgia and Texas? Texas will be on the 2 line this week. Georgia will be probably an 8 or a 9. What if Georgia wins? Georgia has how many losses? 2?
2.
Texas will have 2.
Okay, Texas will have 2 if Georgia wins.
They'll both, yeah.
They're both in.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
That'd just mean Georgia would be the
Georgia moves
the
up to like the 2
2
or
and
the
Texas
3, and they
be
get the
6.
5.
because the champion will move up on the 2 line.
Right. Same situation. Penn State and Oregon. Oregon has 0 losses. Penn State has 1. If Penn
Oregon
State
loses,
wins,
they're the 5.
They're the 5.
Yep.
And Penn State bumps up to, I guess now we have to figure out who's the 1 and the 2.
I think the one that would throw the most chaos into it is what if Clemson beats SMU?
Well, that was the next one on here, Clemson and SMU.
Because that's really the only one that really would kind of eliminate other teams, because Clemson already has 3 losses, so they would get in as an auto qualifier. But would SMU, as a 10-2 power team that lost its conference championship,
No, I don't think so.
If that happens, then you
so
lose.
Who are you putting in over them?
You lose Boise State, or you lose BYU, or you lose Arizona State. One of those.
No, if
teams.
Boise wins their conference, they're in, because they're number 11 in the poll, so they'd be the highest group of 5.
But you just said it. They need to win. So
and so would you put a 3-loss Alabama team in?
Please.
So that's the thing.
There
If
you go, man.
SMU loses to Clemson, who's getting in? Is it South Carolina, Alabama, or Ole Miss?
I totally agree. So that means what they're going to do tomorrow night. The numbers that they show you tomorrow night, they really don't mean much, because we're going to have to wait for these tournament games to play out next Saturday. The only thing I see that might make a difference will be Penn State and Notre Dame. Tomorrow, let's see where they are, because if they put Penn State at the 5 and Notre Dame at the 6, will that make, if Penn State loses, will they switch places a week from now?
Yes.
Little stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
because Notre Dame's still sitting, and I know they're not playing, but they're still sitting at 1 loss. Penn State's at 2. How can you put Penn State higher than Notre Dame?
Penn State's 10-1.
I think that's what
Penn State's only losses to Ohio State.
Yeah,
but that would be their second loss if they lose Oregon.
So
yeah, but the committee doesn't. The committee's not going to punt. The committee's already said, and has precedent in years past, they don't really punish teams for losing extra games, being conference championships.
That's why.
And that's true. The chairman's a Michigan AD, so he's a Big Ten guy. So that he'll probably.
So that's just doing that. All right. Well, speaking of that,
you got a road game of the week. Let's move on.
Scott, hit me with the Frick's Road game of the week, because that will. Love our little
segment
car.
Sponsored by Frick's Driving School. Go to fricksdrivered.com to schedule some driving, or I don't know, text me.
Yeah,
in the chat, and I'll give you Dad's number.
We'll go from there. Well, think about all the flag. We were going to talk about that. I don't know if we're going to have much time. All the flag placements in the middle of the fields this week. That means we had several road teams win. So we can
talk about the week after next when it's when everybody's off.
But I think the biggest name and probably the biggest upset maybe of the year, if you want to look at it that way, has to be Michigan winning at Ohio State. That's my Frick's Road team of the week.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that, because of and it's, I mean, the game is always a huge game. It doesn't matter. But the magnitude of the game this year with, Ohio State being really, really good, having a great season, and then Michigan not having a great season, that W for Michigan is the 5th straight, right? It's the 5th straight W in that series.
Fourth or fifth.
Yeah. That is without question the road game of the week.
Okay.
Because they ducked the game in 2020.
Okay.
All
right. Well, let's jump.
Hang on. Let me ask you real quick. Do you think with the 12-team playoff, it kind of minimizes the importance of these big rivalry games? Because we've seen it in years past, where if in the winner of the game normally meant they were going to the Big Ten championship or going to the national championship. Like 2006, whoever won that game was going to go play Florida for the national title. But now, like, Ohio State loses and doesn't really look very good in doing so. But I think a lot of the attitude now here come Monday has been, all right, well, they can still go win the national championship.
Right.
Season's not over.
It's not a life or death situation.
I don't think it minimizes it at all. I think those rivalry games, if you tell them on Saturday at 5 till noon, when the game starts at noon, this rivalry doesn't matter. There ain't going to be one player that says, you're right. Those rivalry games are still rivalry games.
Yes, they are.
And what's left when they're done is what the media makes of them. But to every one of those kids from Michigan or Ohio State or any rivalry games, any games, you're either celebrating like hell or you're hurting like hell. So those rivalry games are still huge. Here's a question I have for you, not to go off the football subject, but Indiana University went down and played in a Thanksgiving Classic, right? They played in the Bahamas,
Battle
right?
for Atlantis.
Yeah, and so this is a question for you. I mean, and for the record, against Louisville, I mean, I sat there and watched the game. It was the biggest waste of my time forever, because IU played like complete dog. You know what?
Yes, they were bad.
They
were bad for 2 games.
They
That was the
gave
first
no
one.
effort. They gave no effort. They didn't guard anybody. And Mike Woodson, sat in his chair and never got up and tore into anybody's ass ever in that game, in both of those games. But now it comes out that IU played that game at noon on Wednesday, and allegedly, but I say from pretty good sources, Trey Galloway and Miles Rice, the 2 starting guards for Indiana University, were in casinos at 1 o'clock in the morning
playing blackjack.
I don't know how much allegedly there is. There's pictures of it.
And I'm being kind because
nice.
I don't have the pictures.
But just like coaches say, the film don't lie.
Yeah, but so do you think against Louisville there's a correlation between Trey Galloway, who's a fifth year player, or 6th-year player for that matter?
I think he just had his birthday. They said this week he was either 23 or 24.
He plays 20 minutes. He gets 1 rebound, no assist, no points. Miles Rice plays 25 minutes. He gets 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 points. So do you think there's any correlation of those guys really coming in and being ready to play when they're out the night before at 1 a.m. in the morning? And do you think that this changes anything? I mean, do you think that the fact that they both probably make probably $300,000 to $500,000 a year in NIL, that they get to make the decisions like, hey, I ain't staying in for curfew. I'm a multi, I make a lot of money. I'm going out if I want to go out. Or the second part of that question is, do you think Mike Woodson had a curfew with his players?
Like,
come on.
Scott's got a picture of it. The film don't lie. As I said, they're out.
No.
You got to decide what kind of rules they've got.
Well,
is there a curfew?
I coached college basketball for 5 years.
And think how many times you had room checks.
And I had room check at midnight. Hey, the music's like, hey, listen, dudes, shut it off. You're down. Come on, heck, man. No, shut it off. You're down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, then you ain't playing tomorrow.
Right.
So if this stuff came out, and they did, whether it was a curfew, whether it wasn't a curfew, then why did they play the next night when they were dog shit against Louisville, when they played like dog shit against Louisville?
And they played both games.
Yeah. So,
and they weren't very good, neither one of them.
No.
So if you're Mike Woodson, and I mean, we're all Indiana guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we loved Bobby Knight. We all love Indiana. And Mike and Woody was an Indiana
Speak for
guy.
yourself.
Life is better when IU and Purdue play well.
Yeah.
Sure, for Al-Qaeda if they played IU.
And we're Woody guys because you're bringing back a Bobby Knight guy.
Sure.
But Woody came from the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And in the NBA, you treat men like men. And there's no curfews in the NBA. So,
and if you think about it, Galloway is probably the same age as a third of the players in the NBA.
Right.
Yeah. So is there a problem at Indiana University basketball? I say yes.
Q wants to know if the phrase lack of institutional control applies.
I'd say lack of coaching control applies, to be quite honest with you, because they're not out cheating anymore because it's legal. If you're Pete Bell, then I gotta bring blue chips up again.
I can't believe you didn't bring it up when Coach McCullough mentioned Frankfurt.
Should we start a blue chips
totally
jar?
I let it go.
I watched blue chips 2 nights ago.
I let it go. When he mentioned Frankfurt, you mentioned the hot dogs. I thought to myself, okay, let it go. And see if this goes over his head.
And then I'm going to say about the Chicago Bears.
Oh, boy.
The Chicago Bears might be the worst run organization that I've seen in a long time.
Scott,
Great seeing you, Rich,
Scott,
man.
run our other award across the screen.
Thanks for coming in,
saying
man.
bye to our people here.
Thanks,
the
man.
Desmond Howard Award?
Yes, the Desmond.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll call it whatever. It's gone from Stephen A. to Desmond Howard. Go ahead.
The Dumbass of the Week Award.
Dumbass of the Week Award. That was our donkey. Our Dumbass of the Week Award. We're going to shift real quick from. We're going to use IU as a nominee for Dumbass of the Week, and we're going to go to pro football. We got to go back to Thanksgiving Day.
No, I mean, you got 33 seconds, 32
go
seconds.
Back to Thanksgiving Day.
You can't call a timeout
and for like
and give your rookie quarterback a play.
The fourth out of 5 weeks in a row here. Fourth and 5 weeks. It has to be the Bears.
It is the Bears,
and it finally cost him a coach.
Well, yeah, and because here's the deal. They play the Packers really well.
Yeah.
They play the Minnesota Vikings to overtime.
They had a chance to win.
They play the Lions. And you're a Lion guy, John.
Absolutely.
They play the Lions well. But this guy, and I'm a coach, and Pat's a coach, so we both we don't like guys getting fired.
No.
But you gotta can them, man. You got to can them if you can't make those calls at the end of a game. But
do you really feel bad for them when they have like $15 million golden parachutes, though?
I feel awful that those guys are in those positions, but yet they can't make the decisions relative to what they have to do to win games.
Yeah, and jumping that, what was the buyout for the Purdue coach?
Buyout for the Purdue coach was like, what, 20 grand, 18 grand?
That wasn't a big number.
No.
But you know, I was sitting at the relative's house this week, and I said, both those coaches will be gone by noon Monday.
Yeah, and thank goodness.
9.3 million.
9.3.
Hey, I mean, so we got to go back to this, and Pat and I go back to this all the time.
Ed Ogeron
from LSU. $17 million buyout. Hey, Ed, we don't think that we're going to keep you anymore. It's okay. Good. Thank you. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
Or Jimbo Fisher leaving
my $17 million.
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher's the same way.
Yeah. Hey, listen, this was a phenomenal show. This show should go statewide with the interviews with Dave and Jimmy.
Hey, so tell everybody on the record who you want as the Bears' next coach.
Well, I mean, straight up right now, without doing any investigating and talking about it, I would say Ben Johnson, the OC of the Detroit Lions.
You can't have him.
I know.
Who does Q want? Q, comment who you want.
Yeah, we'll get Q to get involved in that too.
Who does Q want?
I don't know. That depends on how quick his fingers are.
He's probably going to say P.T. Morgan, the ex-coach at Anderson High School. We love P.T.
Next week we'll have another.
Mike Ditka coming back?
Yeah, Mike Singletary, maybe.
Oh, Ditka's got
Lord,
some
no.
health issues I've read.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Next week we got some high school basketball. This will be the first full week of high school basketball where all the boys will have at least one game under their belt.
Yep.
We won't be able to figure anything out. The ratings won't make a difference until about Christmas time.
Yep.
By then we'll start having some holiday tourneys, but at least everybody will have a chance to play. The football players get 5 practices and they'll be ready. You and I have a game tomorrow.
Yes, we do.
Weather permitting. Heck, you've got a game tomorrow.
I got Riley against Mish.
That should be a good game.
Bada bing, bada bing.
He wants Joe Brady
tomorrow. Yeah, we have Jimtown Career tomorrow.
Weather
Tell
permitting.
Leon I said hey.
Yeah.
I will.
Please do.
So,
all right.
So we'll get that. So anyway, we'll talk some more college football next week. We'll get better predictions on who's going to be where because
they'll have
the next day will be
Sunday's the announcement. Yep.
Will be the big announcement.
All right, boys. Great show today, Johnny. You're always the best. Pat, great show today.
Congratulations, Zach, on that.
We
appreciate that.
Thank Jimmy Shannon and Dave McCullough for spending some time with us tonight too.
Yep. So you know what that means, right? That I would expect to see broadcastport.net at the Hall of Fame on the 19th of March.
We'll try to make that happen, my friend.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Wednesday.
It's a
Wednesday night, man.
Should we do a live show down there?
I don't know.
We should.
We could go out in the lobby. We
tremendous.
could go out in the lobby and do the red carpet thing. How's that?
That would be tremendous to do a live show.
I would love to go. I don't think I'm going to be able to. because I think I'm going to be getting ready to be a dad.
You're going to be a dad about that time.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
You got other
responsibilities,
responsibilities, youngin.
We ought to do a special edition of Coach's Corner, though.
Well, we could do that.
We could do Coach's Corner live from the NICU at Baylor Scott and White Hospital.
Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, something like that. We could, or we'll be in the lobby.
We don't want to see that.
Or not at the NICU, just in the maternity ward.
We don't. Or we'll
Stay
be
out
out
of
in
the
the
NICU.
lobby at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, hey,
Either
we'll do post banquet right when it's over.
There you go.
Post banquet.
they'll be walking out so quick. They go, damn, heck talk forever.
Give him 4 minutes and he talked 25. No. It's time to hit.
All right, here's the deal. And there's no over and under. There's no anything like that. They give me 4 minutes. I'm going 8. I'm just saying. I'm going 8.
I would definitely take the over on that.
8 would be. 8 sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
You'll make Dockage's speech last year as a
8 was okay. All right, man.
Thanks.
You guys are the best. Love you guys. I'm going to go eat.
See you
guys.
And that will do it for another great edition of Coach's Corner with Heck and King. If you're still here, hit the thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel. I don't know if they still do the notification bell or anything, so you can get notified when we're actually on. But anyway, we'll see everybody. Yeah, thanks for commenting, Q. You always add to the discourse here. But we will see everybody next week, and yeah, later.
Hey, good job tonight. Those guys do okay getting on air, Scott.
Yeah, they did fine. I'm still live because I feel like we do decent. There's decent conversation to be had after hours. So welcome everybody. Or for those of you that stayed, welcome to After Hours on Coach's Corner with me and
King.
Him. Here, I gotta show you something, and for anybody still watching, I think this is the greatest bobblehead of all time. It's have you seen? I showed you the video of Mr. Ed playing baseball.
Oh yeah, Mr. Ed playing Mr. Ed with Don Drysdale and all that. Was that the same one?
Andy Koufax, yeah.
So Colfax, that's who it was.
This is it reminded me when McCullough had mentioned Tom Coverdale.
Yeah.
It's Titus's favorite basketball player of all time.
Okay.
I don't know why Mark loves Tom Coverdale so much, but so Mark and Brandon Walker have their morning show on Barstool, and they're obsessed with the video of Mr. Ed playing baseball.
Oh, gee.
So they came out with bobbleheads of Mr. Ed playing baseball. And
that's funny.
Me and Sophia watch it whenever we can.
Cool.
It's the funniest thing ever. So. Again, for the people still watching, go when we actually stop the live stream on here, go watch Mr. Ed playing baseball with the Dodgers. It's hilarious.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah. So, but I think I at some point I want to get into Dan Hurley because UConn goes and loses 3 games in Maui to unranked teams, and he is throwing a temper tantrum at every turn. And I'm curious because he's so successful. They've won the last 2 national titles. At what point does his shtick get a little old? Because it's like there are no small problems with him.
Right, and then he came out either yesterday or today and said that they're not going to play anymore.
They're never playing in those games again. They're just going to do home and homes. Like, dude, just admit you got your butt kicked and use it as a building block for the season.
Get back to work. That's right.
Use it like I remember when Florida lost a game back in like 2008 with Tebow. He goes into the press conference and he gives that speech about you will not find anybody that works harder than me. You will not find anybody that prepares harder than this team, and yada yada yada. And you know what they do? They go and win the national championship.
They go back to work. That's right.
So it's like dude, Hurley, quit throwing yourself a pity party, and
they'll get back to the East Coast. He'll have his referees, and he'll be happy.
Yeah. So whatever.
I know. All right.
College basketball is in full swing, and the conference games are going to start here.
Well, you get what
pretty
SEC,
soon.
ACC challenge this week, so we'll have some good games here during the week.
Ken says, "Remember, Notre Dame plays no one." Are you talking, Ken? Are you talking about basketball?
Football. I believe Notre Dame's basketball goes to Georgia tomorrow. They're probably on the road right now, heading for Athens. Was it Athens?
Yeah.
They play at Georgia in the ACC SEC challenge.
Well, and I thought it was funny when Purdue had the invitational they were playing out in San Diego, and they played Ole Miss in the championship game there.
Right.
I didn't realize that Chris Beard was the coach at Ole Miss.
Right. He'd been at Texas Tech and a little bit everywhere. He's a good coach.
Been at Texas. He got run off from Texas because I think he had the domestic violence thing.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I don't know how Arkansas is doing. I'm curious to see how Arkansas is doing. Just now with Cal as
they're growing pains. I think they got bumped out of the top 25 just like IU and UConn did.
Well, UConn's 25th.
Okay.
They're right at 25th.
All
At least that's what I think I saw. But yeah, the new poll came out, which was funny because Purdue, when they lost to Marquette, dropped from 6th down to like 16th, which I thought was a little overreaction.
Yeah.
Purdue goes out and wins this 2-game tournament out in San Diego and goes back to 7th or 8th, I think.
Right, exactly.
I think the AP voters here in the early stages of the season are a little bit trigger happy with.
Oh, it's bouncing people around, just like your free throw average. You miss 2, all of a sudden you're a terrible free throw shooter.
Yeah, it'll get better as the conference continues to go. I saw Butler beat Northwestern. I thought that was a good win.
Yeah, that was a good win. All right, hey, I'm out of here. We're gonna go eat.
All right. Well.
Okay. Thanks for your help.
Yep.
Okay. See ya.
I don't know. Should I just sit here and talk for anybody that's still watching? What do you want me to say, or do you just want me to hang up? I could go on. Although I think I'm supposed to go eat dinner, so maybe I'll go do that. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I think that'll do it. I'm gonna get out of here. So, thanks everybody for watching, and see you in a week.